Good morning, everyone.
Good
My message
morning.
this morning is titled Prosperity Equals Substance. And I think prosperity is a great subject to talk about, and it can make a lot of people uncomfortable, can it? Because everybody tends to, what is the first thing people talk about when you mention prosperity?
Money.
Money, yeah. Well, guess what? I'm not talking about money this morning. It's not the thing I'm talking about per se, but I know in my family we never talked about money. I mean, we didn't ask how much money anybody made, or what they were getting paid per hour and all that. It was taboo, kind of like talking about sex. And so when I thought about this talk, I thought, let's just keep that as something we're not going to talk about today. Because I think that the important thing is that we look at the idea of prosperity and substance and truly understand them as a spiritual thing, not as a material thing. And we know that money is just the byproduct of prosperity. It's not actually, a lot of people think money and prosperity equal, but they're not. It's a byproduct of having that spiritual awareness of prosperity. And in the Revealing Word, Fillmore defines prosperity as this: the consciousness of God as the abundant, everywhere present resource, unfailing, ready for all who open themselves to it through faith. Isn't that a beautiful statement? And that's really where we have to focus on. We have to think about understanding the true spiritual practice of prosperity and go from that. And it's through faith that we really begin. And so we're going to kind of take this quote and kind of go backwards with it to end up back to the prosperity. But it takes faith. Faith is that knowing of God in our lives. Not just a part-time knowing, but a full-blown, always knowing that God is one with us. If we could get that into our everyday living, into our everyday thinking, guess what? We wouldn't think about negative things. We wouldn't veer off the path because we're focused in on the fact that God is always with us, that God is right here, and that we are moving from that realization. And that's a huge awareness on our spiritual journey. It can change everything. It can change the direction of every thought we have. And it does take a little bit of courage, and it does take a little bit of sometimes just a bit of letting go, of release. Now, I know, for example, a lot of people say they cannot sing, right? You've heard this, even in this crowd, yeah. They just say they just can't do it. They just can't sing. And you know what? To be good at anything, you have to do what? Practice. Yeah, and the more you practice, the better you get at it. And I guarantee you that if you said you couldn't sing 5 years ago, but you practiced, you would be a whole lot better today than what you were 5 years ago. Now, you might not still think you sound that great, but you're probably better than you were before because you gave it a go and you kept practicing, and you were opened up a new pathway of believing it to be so. And then it's up to us to decide whether we're going to continue to practice singing or we're going to just let it go and find something else to do. And that's okay too, because that's the way life is, isn't it? We focus in on something, we practice it, we do it, and if we don't like it, we drop it and go to something else. That's normal. But so it works in any area of our life. It might not be singing, but whatever it is, if we change our attitude or thoughts about it and align with faith that God is right here with us and that we are one with God, and we change how we believe in the possibilities and opportunities that await us, we will not fail. That's a given. That's the way faith works. It makes it happen. If we stay in that space, if we stay in that spiritual space rather than going to the physical or the material space that we go to most of the time. It is a knowing beyond knowing that God is always here. And that's pretty cool. Reverend Warren's going to be talking about faith next week because it's the first Sunday of Advent. So he's going to explore that a little bit more for you. But we have to have that first awareness. Because knowing we are one with God and seeing the possibilities and opportunities that await us, we now know is true prosperity. That's how we open up to prosperity. Because you know what? The minute we know that God is always with us, guess what? There's no lack, there's no fear, there's no doubt, there's no nothing that is going to stand in our way. That's prosperity. Because prosperity is this unlimitedness that God gives us. Here's a little bit more from the Revealing Word. Prosperity is based on the conscious possession of the idea of God's abundance back of all things. Things come and go, but the idea of abundance endures. Isn't that beautiful? And it comes down to the idea of that we have these things. This is what blocks our way. We have these things in our life. And that takes us kind of to substance, because we have all these things, don't we? And that's what we think substance is these things that we own, these things that we have in our homes, these things we have, a car, whatever it is. And when we first got that thing, we thought maybe we really needed it, or we really did need it, maybe, maybe it was a can opener. We couldn't open any of the cans without the can opener. But then after we got that can opener, we decided we needed a different kind of can opener, but we really didn't, but we got it anyway. And then before long, we've got 4 can openers sitting in the shelf because we continued this cycle. And that's what happens. We start building up this thing, and we think that's substance. We think that makes us more complete, more whole. And maybe in a physical sense it does, because it makes our life a little bit easier. But when we start stockpiling stuff, or when we start having all this stuff around, then the idea of substance has been distorted by material things rather than the spiritual aspect of substance. For me, or how many times have you done this? First off, how many times have you done this? Got rid of something, released it, said, oh, I don't need it anymore, and then wanted it the next week. Darn, I wish I would have gave that away. Yeah. But then you think to yourself, well, I have the ability to go get another one, and it's all okay. But we don't go there, do we? We just kind of beat ourselves up for giving it away. So the next time we get ready to give something away, we think, oh, well, you know what happened last time? I needed it the next week. Yeah, well, did we really need it, or did we just want it in that moment? But for me, one of the things that I was happy to get rid of, because we do have to look at release this way, and we have to see that we are opening up this pathway for prosperity to come in. But for me, it was a treadmill. We had a treadmill at one time. I did not like that thing. I did not like getting on it. It's there in my bedroom. I had to look at it every day, and I had to make myself get on it, and I just didn't like it. And then the kids would get on it. This was when Jesse and Tabby and Grace were littler, and they would get on it, and I knew something was going to happen, or they'd sit there and pull the rubber tread thing, pull it manually, and I thought, oh my God, if that thing clicks on, their hands are gone, or little fingers or whatever. So it just drove me crazy. But when I gave it away, when I released it, that was one of the best days of my life, because it felt so good. I felt like, wow, this is a good feeling to release this, and no, I'm never going to get another treadmill. And when we have that feeling, that's the feeling we need to tap into and hold on to. Because if we want to experience true prosperity, then we have to keep our feelings aligned with the idea that it's okay to give it away. It's okay to release it. We don't have to build up this stuff to make ourselves feel better. We can just move through and see that there's always an opportunity for us to have more. How many of you go on Facebook Marketplace? Have you ever thought about something, and then you go on Facebook Marketplace, and there it is, and you think, oh God, I just thought about that. I think I might need to think about getting that. But then you realize, I don't really need it, or I don't really want it, or whatever. Maybe you go and get it. I mean, I've done that before too. But we have to go back to the idea of the feeling that we're having around this whole decision in order to truly understand prosperity. Because if it doesn't feel good, it's not prosperity, is it? No, we're just building up substance that is material, not substance that will take us to a higher place. And we have to know that through the grace of God that we are going to be able to release it, and it's all going to be okay. From Matthew 6:19-20, it says, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon the earth, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. And if we hoard or hold on to things and just stockpile things, we are laying up what we think are treasures on earth, aren't we? We're not laying up treasures that are going to actually enhance us or make us a better person or take us on this spiritual journey where we really want to experience these spiritual gifts that God gives us. And, even the idea of Advent, it has 4 Sundays, and it explains to us these gifts that we get to experience around the idea of the birth of Jesus, but really it's about the birth of the Christ within. We know this in unity. So we have to be able to be open and receptive to exploring these and allowing these to come through ourselves. But it goes back to that feeling. Now, how many of you have had before a really cozy blanket that you just love to curl up in and sit there and watch TV or just sit there and read a book or whatever? You have this nice cozy blanket. Well, what would happen if that blanket started suffocating you? You'd get rid of it, wouldn't you? If it was like had some kind of power or whatever that it could start suffocating you. Well, it's the same thing with our stuff. You have to think of it as like if it's suffocating you, if it's stifling your growth, whether it's on a material level or a spiritual level, we have to be able to release it, to let it go. And that's sometimes hard to do, isn't it? It's very difficult. So whether it is a blanket or an unhealthy relationship or some negative thoughts you hold on to about yourself or anyone else, these things can and will suffocate your spiritual growth and keep you from a prosperous life. Release is a spiritual practice that we can open up to allow ourselves to truly experience prosperity. And all we have to do is just release, let go. Whether it's a thought, a bad relationship, whatever it is, too much junk, whatever it is, we just have to open it up. And this is the last Sunday of November, and the power for November is release. And it's a perfect time to tell yourself, I'm going to release this stuff. And if you can't do it today or this week or whatever, get you a little stack of Post-it notes and go around and start putting a Post-it note on stuff you really think you want to release. And give it some thought. And then maybe you come back to it and think, no, I'm not going to release that. Take the Post-it note off. But eventually you'll get to the point where you're ready to let it go. And that is where the flow of prosperity starts coming in. You see, the universe responds to voids. So when we open up that space, when we release things, then the universe will come rushing in with the invisible spirit of plenty to bring forth some miraculous things. I truly believe this, and I've seen it happen over and over again. You know, about the time you give something away that you no longer need, you all of a sudden, maybe your awareness shifts to something you already have and you appreciate it better. Or maybe somebody offers you something that would replace that thing and give you some more joy or happiness with it. You release a relationship and you find 3 new friends that you can do something with. All of these things are there, and those are the treasures in heaven. Those are the opportunities that we have to build up those treasures in heaven, because we know that the word heaven is associated with divine ideas, and that's where we get the substance. We move into that idea of substance. And when we recognize these spiritual truths, prosperity now becomes just part of our lives. It doesn't have to even be something we think about. It just starts manifesting here on earth, the good that we are holding within our own consciousness, within ourselves. And we get to start experiencing wonderful gifts that God has for us. Fillmore invites us to remember, God is your prosperity. See, we think prosperity is all about the money or all about the things or all about whatever, or being a more spiritual person. But yet we go and keep living every day the same way. That's not going to work, is it? We see it all the time with people. But God is your prosperity. And stamp this thought daily on your mind and you will reap financial success. So he does throw in there the idea of financial success because it's the byproduct of prosperity. But so is growing spiritually. It's just as important. You know, and the downfall of this is when you don't have enough faith. That's why I brought up the idea of faith. And we know what can tear down faith, don't we? What tears down faith? Doubt, fear. Fear is what I like to say. Faith and fear. The opposite of faith is fear. And when we start having fear over, oh gosh, if I give that away. Oh no, what if I do this? Or, oh gosh, if I can't be friends with her anymore, what's going to happen? I've done that before. I had a friend that I thought was great fun and all this, but then little things start coming back to me, and I thought, yeah, I just don't want to give up this friend. But then it was like, whoa, maybe I do need to give up this friend because I'm trying to live this kind of a life, and she's trying to live this kind of life, and it doesn't align. So I can love her, and I can behold the Christ in her, but I can't be around her all the time, and that made it okay. It was a release that opened up more space for other friends to be with me, to be in this experience together. And I think that's huge. But when we live in fear, we automatically put up a barrier to be able to experience prosperity. Because and that fear barrier, it'll get tighter and tighter because we'll start fearing everything. I mean, unfortunately, COVID was really, and really still is, a fearful thing for a lot of people. And it's sad to think that something could come in and, it was scary. You weren't supposed to leave the house. We've never experienced that in our lifetimes. But then, as time has gone by, we see that fear doesn't have to control our lives. And so we have to be able to just release and let go and move through. I always say that fear is kind of like this. You walk up to your house and all of a sudden, are you going to go through the door or are you going to go through the window? Well, we all are going to go through the door, aren't we? We're not going to climb in through the window to our house. But that's what fear does to us. It makes us think we can't go in the door. It makes us think we have to climb in the house a different way. And if we erase fear, then we can swing those doors wide open and walk in without any fear, without any problems. And we have to do that. Now, does that mean we have to throw everything out with the baby with the bathwater? No, we still have to make sure we take precautions and do what we need to do. But if we want to stay in the flow of prosperity, then we need to think about swinging those doors wide open. I love Luke 6:38, and it says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over." And if we learn to give, so we receive. And that's the idea of prosperity. We know that whatever we have, whatever mountains of things we have, we can give it all away, and we're still going to have more come to us, aren't we? It's not going to be like, oh, I've given everything away, now I have nothing. No, we're going to be able to live in this world, and we can give and we can receive. And that's where prosperity starts equaling substance. Because if we truly understand substance, then we will be able to see how they equal. First, most people think of substance in the physical sense, material sense, which I talked about. It's all our stuff. Well, here's the definition. The real physical matter of which a person or thing consists and which has a tangible, solid presence. So we're talking about stuff, aren't we? We're talking about all the things that are here. But in the spiritual sense and in the revealing word, substance is defined as this. And this is the huge difference, and this is what really can make a difference for us. Substance, the divine idea of the underlying reality of all things. Got me? And we always say in seminary, we always used to say substance is God stuff. So if you think of the divine idea as being God stuff, it's God stuff coming through you, to you, through your super consciousness, bringing forth those things that will bring the good to you. It goes on with this. Substance is everywhere present, pervades all things, and inspires to action. It underlies all manifestation and is the spiritual essence, the living energy out of which everything is made. So substance is, I like to think of it as kind of like a golden ray from God coming into your super consciousness, coming forth with divine ideas that activate energy within you that energy wants you to manifest here on earth. And I think it's huge that if we think about it that way, because we'll see how it does show up like that, how that spiritual essence has helped us our entire lives get through any difficult time, get through anything that we need to get through. And it's the energy of God. That spiritual essence is the energy of God. Through substance, all the attributes of being are expressed. So if we are truly beaming that golden energy of substance, God energy, through us, then everything, all the attributes of being, we will be that spiritual being in expression. It sustains and enriches any idea that is projected into it. So when we accept it and we know it and we're open and ready for it, then it's going to project out into our world. You know, God is that active energy that we know and claim, and it's an endless supply. It's not like a water faucet where we turn it off and on. You know, it's constantly going, and we get to decide whether we tap into it or not. That's why we have to go back to the idea that God is always with us. Because then if we do that, we're keeping that flow going. We're keeping the idea that God energy is coming forth, which is really huge. And Fillmore's designed this affirmation. I really love it, and I would love for you to say it with me. But this is what kept them in the idea of prosperity. The affirmation they used to keep aligned with prosperity. It goes like this. Let's say it together. The rich substance of the kingdom of God is pouring its plenty perpetually into my mind and affairs, and I am in all ways prospered. Isn't that a cool affirmation? I think it's great because it actually does allow us to affirm on a daily basis. Really, you could do it here.
No, you're all right.
Okay, on a daily basis, what we need. Yeah, that's a good idea. Take a picture of it. What we need to stay aligned with that, and you know, affirmations really work. Especially if you give. I guarantee you this: if you give away one thing this week, and you start affirming this once a day during the week, you will notice a difference in your own attitude, your own shift of things, whatever. I mean, I don't know what was going to come forth for you because I don't know what your highest good is, but I guarantee you something will. And it's just practicing these spiritual practices that Fillmore were so good of defining. And it's a universal prosperity, so that means it's there for all of us. Did everybody get a photo of it?
Mm-hmm.
The invisible currents of energy that carry the riches to us in new and prosperous. The invisible currents of energy carry the riches to us in new and prosperous ways. We don't need to look scientifically for proof. We will feel proof coursing in our soul. And this is huge because this goes back to what I was saying about feeling good about giving something away. That feeling that you have is what we want to have in that excitement of being in that energy of God, of being in that place where we are allowing our spirits to soar and enliven us to a higher place of understanding, to a better place of understanding. That's where spiritual prosperity taps into all that we are and all that we can be. And it's tangible, and it's manifesting that heaven here on earth, those divine ideas here on earth. And when we bring forth, through faith, the release of things blocking our way, we will know and experience prosperity equals substance. Thank you for being here today. God bless you.